This is a very cosmic question, and it always comes up of why in the world do we have this creation in the first place? What's the purpose of all this? And I suspect many of you have asked yourself that. It's a natural question for the devotee to ask themselves, why? Why is it? And of course, there are many philosophical answers to that. It's God's play, God's lila, God enjoying himself through many. But Parma, or Swami Kriyananda, had a very nice way of saying that. He says the very nature of God, one of the aspects of God, of course, is Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda. And this Ananda, this bliss, the very nature of bliss is to expand. It's expansive, it's ever new. And it's also the very nature of bliss is to share. Is in a sense, it wants to not contain that bliss, and you'll see this for yourself. When you feel a sense of joy, you don't want to contain it for yourself. You want to expand and you want to share it with others. And so in the same cosmic sense, bliss is something that naturally wants to be shared. And so that definition of God creates so that he might share this bliss with all, that we might all enjoy it, and or each soul enjoys it. God enjoys it through the creation of many individual souls going out and ultimately finding their true home, their back in God himself. But we resist, and for some reason, why? Why is it that people resist? We go out into creation, and if our home truly is in God, why is it that we choose, you might say, to indulge yourself in suffering, to be able to choose to wander when our true nature is bliss? Well, this too is a very cosmic question, and I was always heartened by the story that had been told of Paramahansa Yogananda, how when he was pondering these questions, it said that he argued with Divine Mother. Divine Mother, why did you create this world? Why did you create this? You created us, so it's your responsibility to free us. Why did you throw us into this world of suffering? And we had no choice in the matter. And you were the one that created us, so you must release us. And there was a story of him once he was in a state of samadhi at a group meditation. And he began to speak to Divine Mother, and he was in a state of divine ecstasy, and he was talking to Divine Mother, and he said, Mother, now I know, now I see why you have done this. And of course, it's not something that you could explain in words, but he had that intuitive perception in divine ecstasy where it all, of course, made sense. Now, I suspect much of this, he was doing it for the devotees' benefit, to be able to, play this role out so that the devotees themselves would be inspired. But there is a divine purpose for it. And you could say the spiritual path is calling us in our own soul, that question that we have of why, Mother, why God, did you create that? That question itself is calling us to seek an answer. I remember just actually just very shortly yesterday, a few days ago, Nayaswami Jaya was telling a story of Swami Kriyananda that somebody was very discouraged, and they asked, they were expressing their discouragement to Swamiji, and they revered Swamiji and looked up very highly to him, and they were saying, that he had seemingly accomplished quite a bit, and not to speak of what Paramahansa Yogananda, the great master that he was. And when you put yourself next to somebody of great spiritual attainment, you naturally sometimes can feel short or small next to that. And so he was looking up to Swamiji and looking up to Master, and he was feeling discouraged, because how is it possible that I could ever attain that which you have attained? And you see yourself and you see your faults, and this is what he was doing. And Swamiji very kindly said to him, he says, don't be discouraged. If it seems like I have attained something that maybe is a little bit more than yourself yet having to be able to attain, maybe it's just because I've been trying to do it a little bit longer than you have. Ultimately, in the end, we all must come to God. All of us eventually find our freedom in God. And this is something to keep in mind. We all have the destiny to find our freedom. It's only a matter of how long. How long is it going to take? And if some of us have been on it a little bit, you might say longer, perhaps it's because they've been resisting that cycle that Krishna is referring to in this stanza. To the degree that we resist, that's how long we have to take. Now, one thing we must remember, of course, is the choice is ours. We have, and this is something that God has given each one of us, He has given us free choice. We can take as long or as short as we choose. You could say, you could say that, does that mean that if I choose right now to cast aside delusion that I'd be free? And Yogananda said, yes, you would be free. But obviously we cannot do that because our mind is hypnotized. But if we could dehypnotize ourselves, you see, put aside that delusion and see through the curtain of that is obscuring reality, that potential is there right now for each one of us. And sooner or later, it will be our destiny to do that. But the choice is ours, mine and yours.